to complete this last page in our packet for review and reteaching purposes. And then I'm going to model for you how I would use my notes to, first of all, complete the practice quiz. Then you will have not only your notes, but your practice quiz to help you on the quiz tomorrow. I will not be here tomorrow. I will not be here tomorrow. I have jury duty. And so you have to be responsible. You may not talk, you may not use your phone, you may not use your Chromebook, you may use your notes, you may not use your friend's notes, right? As long as you have your stuff, you should be fine. I'll let you know. Yeah, whatever I can tell you, I'll tell you. I don't know what I'll be allowed to tell you, but if I can, I'll tell you. I don't know. All right, so remember, if we're trying to evaluate an expression, I'm going to put a parenthesis where the M is. I'm going to bring down my sign, that symbol here, that's a negative sign or a minus sign. And then I'm going to put parentheses where my other letter is. This helps me stay organized. So my M, I'm going to put in a -8 because that's what M equals. For my N, I'm going to put a -14. What do I do here, Kyra? Yes, we have to keep, change. Very good. I'm glad you said keep because a lot of you want to change this sign. Do not change this sign. When I have two negative signs next to each other, we have to change. Now we're asking ourselves, are these signs the same or different? I have a negative and a positive, so my signs are different. Different means I find the difference. So big minus little. What's 14 minus 8? 6. My bigger number is positive, so my answer is staying positive, right? Jason, put your skateboard away. Find the distance. Remember, this means we're finding the absolute value of the difference. We're going to say -19 minus 4. Looking at this problem here, we can think this is like we're combining these two things. Or you can think this is far on the left and I'm going further left. So it's getting more negative. When our signs are the same, we find the sum. What's 19 plus 4? 23. And it's negative. The reason it doesn't matter in this case is because we're finding the absolute value because the distance is never negative. Okay? Same thing here, highest and lowest. So we're taking highest minus the lowest to find the range. So our highest was 112 minus our lowest. So what do I do first? Keep, change. Anytime I have two eyeballs here, we're turning them into crosses. Now I can do this, right? I'm just adding them up. I have 3 ones, 6 tens, and 100, right? 2 plus 1 is 3, 5 plus 1 is 6, and then I only have 100. Does it make sense? Yes. Remember, if I draw out a picture, 112 is way up here. Then we have a 0, and then down here is a -51. So we want to know this, how many we would have to jump up to get to 112. Takes 51 here plus another 112 to get up there. Does that make sense? All right. Avery is playing a game with her friends. First, she has to move back 4 spaces. So that would be like -4. And then she has to move forward 11. Where is she at? Oh, wait. So we could do this one way. Her change might be 6. Or we could find the difference So here they're actually asking how much greater. So the difference, we really have to think about it. Second term than the first term. So second minus the first. So this does get a little tricky. We end up with 11 minus negative 4. And I wrote negative 5 here, which was silly, because so it would really be 7. So if you showed your work and you can tell me why you got that answer, I would say okay. So if we wanted to add these up, it would look like this. But this question is actually asking us how much greater is something. Second term than, remember than is where we put our subtraction sign. So second minus first. Here's the second, it's positive 11 minus the first, which is negative 4. So remember, change. So how much more? 15 more spaces they got to move, right? If you're going back 4, the difference between going forward 11 and going back 4 is 15 spaces. Does that make sense? Nope. Well, what's the difference between going no spaces and going 11 forward? 11. So the difference between going forward 11 and going back 4 is 4 more than that. You have to make up for those 4 that you went back, okay? If you're unsure, draw it out on a number line, right? How do I get from negative 4 to 11, right? There's 11 here and 4 more here. All right, so go ahead and pull out your practice quiz. You should have that. Please take a minute to be sure your name is on your packet and your name is on your practice quiz. Today's date is the 16th. And you should know that you are in 5th hour, or if you happen to be watching and are in 7th hour, you would write 7. Right away, we're hit with something, right? It says find the absolute value of. So if I'm using my brain, I'm going to look for where I see the absolute value of something. Oh, look, I have fantastic notes, and this is page 1. So right in this section here, I'm going to write page 1. That way I can refer back to those notes and say, oh, Mrs. Love said it's never negative. So none of these answers should be negative. All we did here was make a negative answer positive, and the positive answer stayed the same. So go ahead and try those 4. Hopefully you can use those notes. Hopefully you have those notes, right? So none of these should be negative. It is not, I repeat, it is not asking you for the opposite of those numbers. It's asking you for the absolute value of those numbers. And right here, hopefully you wrote in your notes, never negative, right? If not, add that in there so you have them. Or you could put it here, right? Never negative. Because not only can you use your notes on the quiz, but you can use this practice quiz on the quiz. Is that fair? Hopefully. Yep. Notice here we have section 3.1. If you're not sure, you can find 3.1 reinforce here. So you can see these were all the ones we added. So these were like page 5. And they were like page. Is that right? Hold on. Adding integers. So this is more like page 2. if you want exactly, it is actually exactly like starting on page 8. You can see on page 8 here, these were all these types of questions. So remember, when our signs were the same, we found the sum, which meant to add. When our signs were different, we found the difference, which meant to subtract. So same, we're looking for sum. Different, we're finding the difference. Remember, sum means to add. Difference means to subtract. Remember, our answer is sign of the, remember I'm putting this in quotations because it's really the absolute value, the bigger number. So 3-2 starts on page, we did this back starting on page 5. But 3-2, we retaught it again with the 3-2 reinforce, which starts on page 12. So here, our signs are the same, so we're finding the sum. If I'm not sure what to do here, I might look back at a problem I did here. Make sure I know what we did. How was it negative, right? Find a problem just like this one. Let's see if I can find a problem just like this one. I'm looking for a problem just like that one. And I have a negative plus a negative, like right here. So maybe you want to write page 5 right here for number 5. I don't know. Right? These other ones, though, you're finding the difference. So when our signs are the same, we find the sum. What's 10 plus 4? 14, and both of them are negative, so it's getting more negative. Here we're finding the difference though, so we're thinking 21 minus 14, which is 7. But our bigger number is negative, so our answer is negative, okay? Now over here, these are our subtraction problems. So if we have a negative and negative, we need to change, right? Negative and a negative, change. Negative and a negative, change. I would just think through the rest of those. You don't have two negatives next to each other. The last couple, we have this bonus here. Remember when we added 3 things together? You do the first 2 and then add on the second. So whatever this is, we're adding 15 to it. Now think through carefully your word problems. If you're looking for word problems, find things. It says, Mrs. Miller borrowed $15 from Mrs. Wright. The next day, she borrowed another $10. So if she's borrowing money, it's asking what she owes and what integer. So would she have a positive amount or a negative amount if she owes money? Negative. Very good. Savvy began a hike at an elevation and ended down a higher elevation. Find her change from beginning to the end. So here you might want to write down, I have to take my end and subtract my beginning. So put your ending value and then put your beginning value. Remember, when you subtract a negative, you're really adding. Those are the tricky ones. I'm going to give you some time to work through this, and then I do want to go over it so that you have this and you have the correct answers on this one for tomorrow, so you can use it as an example for your quiz. Again, I won't be here because of jury duty. Zeros if you're talking. The sub's just gonna take your quiz. You can argue all you want. Not gonna help you. You're gonna turn in your quiz as soon as it's done. You're also gonna be turning in your packet and your practice quiz. So your practice quiz should definitely be done. Your packet, you might want to finish up once you've turned in your quiz if you're not quite done. Your first grades for Alex went in this morning, so hopefully you got all 5 points or more. I do not put in Alex grades until Monday, so if you don't like that grade, you are welcome. It will change, but it won't change till each Monday. So you got to catch up and get those Alex topics learned if you need that as well. All right, I'm gonna pause this right now because I want to go over it and include that in the video, but I don't want to have the longest video ever, okay? Tomorrow, your quiz. Listen, your quiz should not take the entire class period. So please be sure you have your Chromebooks with you so you can work in Alex. Here's a pop quiz for you, Meadow. Once you turn in your quiz, is it okay to talk? No. So if you're talking and there are people with quizzes still, the sub is just gonna write your name down and you're gonna get a 0. That is no bueno. You do not want a 0 on the quiz tomorrow. Okay, are you ready? What's the answer to number 1? Okay, 25. Number 2. 4. Number 3. 4. Number 8. Notice none of these were negative. They were all just that number, but the positive version. All right, we did 5 and 6. Look at number 7. Are your signs the same or different? Different. So that means you're finding the difference. What is 15 minus 9? 6. And your bigger number is negative, so your answer is negative. Be sure you have these notes down so you can use this quiz tomorrow. Are you going to turn in your practice quiz tomorrow? Yes. Are you going to turn in your packet? Yes, please do. Here, are your signs the same or different? You have a positive and a negative, so they're different. So what's 8 minus 6? 2. So your bigger number is positive, so it's going to stay at 2. If you need to, guys, if you need to, draw out a picture. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 positives, right? 6 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice all of these would become 0, right? Because there's a 1-to-1 match. You're left with 2 positives. Your answer is positive 2. Don't be afraid to take your time and draw some pictures if you're still not understanding, or draw a number line. Negative 6 and 11, are your signs the same or different? Yes, different. So what's 11 minus 6? 5. That's one you should know, and your bigger number is positive. Did you get 5 here? Yes. What'd you get for number 10? I already kind of wrote it out for you. What's 4 plus 8? 12. This literally says 4 plus 8, right? Now, when we look here, our signs are different. We have a positive 3 and a negative 15. So what's the difference, Kendrick? What's 15 minus 3? Take 3 from 5 real quick. That leaves you with 2. So 12 again. But this time your bigger number is negative. So you should have gotten negative 12. Did you get negative 12? Hopefully. Here my signs are different. What's 19 minus 2? 17. And my bigger number is positive, so your answer is positive. Good. This one is a lot like number 5. When your signs are the same, you find the sum. Here, my signs are different, so I'm finding the difference. But in order to do that, remember, I'm always thinking big minus little. So I really have to think 8 minus 4, which is 4, and my bigger number is negative. All right, questions on 10 through 14? Yes. So your first job was to change, right? Did you do that and show that? All right, guys, on your quiz, make sure you're showing this. Here I had a positive number and a negative number. So my signs were different. So I found I found the difference. Very good. The goal is to learn from your mistakes, right? So if you did not do the practice quiz, there was probably no learning done. All right, we have a bit more time to go over these last few, so stay with us. If she borrowed $15 from Mrs. Wright, the next day she borrowed another 10. So this is like negative 15 plus another what? Negative 10. We're trying to figure out what integer represents Mrs. Miller's balance. So what integer would you use? Negative 25. So our signs were the same, so we found the sum. You could also have looked at this as negative 15 minus 10. This should still get you the same answer. Please don't throw things, Jacob. I watched you. Savvy began a hike at an elevation of negative 34 and ended her hike at 45. To find her change from the beginning to the end, we would take the end minus the beginning. So if she ended at 45, you might want to write end minus beginning so that you can use that on your quiz tomorrow if you're not sure what to do, right? Write down end minus beginning. That's how we find her change in elevation. So she ended at a positive 45 and we have to subtract a negative 34. So be sure you showed this work, be sure you're showing this work. And now what do you have to do first, David, before I can do this? Remember when I get really mean and I tell you to change, right? So now I can do that. I can add those up. Excellent. 79 feet. This was in dollars. I've been known to give bonus points for labeling your answers. All right, so here, this one isn't one that we do a ton of, but we have seen this before when we are combining more than one integer. You were given a couple methods, but if we look at just this first part first, what is negative 22 plus negative 10? It's like number 5. We added them. Our signs are the same, so we find the sum. Nope. What is negative 22 plus negative 10? Negative 32. Very good. Now our signs are different. So now we can find the difference. So we're saying 32 minus 15. Can I take 5 from 2? Please don't tell me it's 3. We have to borrow here. 12 minus 5 is 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. And so Meadow was right. A negative 32 and a positive 15 makes a negative 17 because our bigger number here is negative. All right. So that is our answer here. All right, make sure you have good notes. Make sure you're showing your work. I would say I would not require work through 1 through 14, but in your word problems here, I probably wanna see some work. Bonus points if you're showing some work down here, cause I do wanna know how you did it. That'd be fantastic. So definitely those last through three, show your work. You got a couple minutes? I would absolutely positively make sure my practice quiz and my notes are in my workbook and my workbook is in class so that tomorrow when I come in, I can get them out and be ready for the quiz. All right?